It is autumn and the mass rewatch of Gilmore Girls has already begun. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, the series follows the two main characters, Lorelai and Rory Gilmore, and their close relationship as they navigate their life whilst living in the small town of Stars Hollow. Lorelai gave birth to Rory at the age of 16 and they moved to the cosy town of Stars Hollow, where they are beloved neighbours of the town's eccentric citizens. They adore Rory for her sweet demeanour, charm, and academic brilliance. Not only is she extremely successful after she attends Chilton, a private school that demands excellence for all of its students, but then goes on to attend the prestigious University of Yale, after also receiving various amounts of offers from other schools such as Harvard and Princeton. Now, it is here that we begin to see the downfall of Rory. There are some extreme character flaws, and this is what this video is going to explore. It's crazy to think that a young girl that was so ambitious, very intelligent, and beloved by all can have such a vast change in character. How does a young girl who is so lovely, such a warm, nice character, go from this to treating people poorly, involving herself in marital affairs, and various other ill treatment of others? Some might say that she is not entirely to blame for her actions. Others may argue that she is an adult and is solely responsible for her life choices. One of the main issues that Rory has is that she's never challenged on her abilities, having constant reassurance that she can in fact be whoever she wants and do whatever she wants may have been to her detriment. We begin to see this at Chilton when she starts not getting the grades that she received at Stars Hollow's High. However, this soon turns around and doesn't become such an issue as she puts the time and effort in to turn the grades around and becoming a star pupil. In the early series, she is with Dean, who is perceived to be a nice, safe young boy who looks after her. However, she takes this for granted and quickly turns her eyes to Jess. Not only does she cheat on Dean with Jess, but she keeps her feelings a secret from Dean for many months until finally Dean just catches on at the dance marathon where it all comes to light. Dean, of course, is no angel, but when he confides in Lorelai and says, she likes Jess, doesn't she? You can see the pain and upset in his eyes, and this is what Rory has directly caused. One of the other major flaws with Rory is just her lack of honesty. Not only does she hurt Dean by choosing Jess over him, but then she has the audacity to drag him back into her life when she attends Yale when she is failing and seeks comfort in him. And so this leads to so many issues. She is partly responsible for the fact that his marriage to the lovely Lindsay gets ruined and she treats her with the utmost disrespect. Lindsay is Dean's wife and she is just trying to keep Dean happy and make him have a nice home, and we see this when she is incessant on getting a roast beef recipe ready for him. Despite the catastrophic effect that Rory has on Dean's life, again, her eyes sway to the new man in her life and so breaks Dean's heart again as she goes and sets her eyes on Logan. Infidelity and marital affairs seem to be second nature to Rory. And we see this later again in the revival series. Despite turning down Logan's proposal, she continues to have an affair with him, despite the fact that he is engaged and soon to be married. Rory clearly has no concept of loyalty and has no respect for other people's relationships, including her own. Going back to the point of her not being able to deal with rejection, one of the major times this occurs again is when she is rejected by Logan's father and told that she simply doesn't have it during her internship at his paper. This then leads her to pivot into a downward spiral of her life where she drops out of Yale, and this is a pivotal moment in her life. Not only does she drop out of Yale, but she then ends a relationship with her mother because she is not supportive of this decision. It is only when she decides to steal a boat with Logan because she is so upset with her circumstances that we actually see Rory get reprimanded from her for her behaviour. The judge basically says to her she's an entitled young girl and her actions cannot be accepted in normal society, and so gives her a vast amount of community service which she needs to complete as part of her sentence. Again, we see her entitlement and this sense of I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, when she really didn't expect the judge to do anything really to her except maybe a few hours of community service. But the reality was she is an adult and she will be treated as such, and the judge makes this known. It is very clear that her time with her grandparents gradually starts to mirror her mother's time that she experienced as a teenage girl. And so, yes, it's probably a bit controlling of Emily, and how she treats people is not great when she just wants everything to go her way. But Rory does show quite a lack of respect towards Emily, despite the fact that she is trying to care for her, whilst her mother refuses to deal with her in the absence of her going to Yale. After a while working at the DAR and spending time away from school, she bumps into Jess again, who gives her a reality check of her life. He basically turns around to her and says, "What are you doing? Why have you done this? All of your goals, all of your ambitions have completely fallen to the wayside. You need to effectively get back on the horse, go back to Yale, and carry out your dreams." And so, if it weren't for Jess coming back on the scene and giving her some helpful direction, her life would have turned out maybe even more differently, because she ends up going back to Yale after this. So she goes back to Yale, and the way she handles this is really not very kind on her grandparents. She basically leaves her grandparents' household, sending Colin and Finn to the home to collect her belongings. Her selfish actions are a tragedy for Emily, as she must have felt exactly the same as when Lorelai picked up and left on a night as a teenage girl, taking her only grandchild away with her, and not to be seen for a number of years. This must have been a very painful reminder, and has such a big emotional impact on Emily, because she cannot deal with her emotions of her grandchild leaving her, much like her own daughter did. Rory really could have handled the situation so much nicer. She could have been respectful. She could have gone to her grandparents and said, "Look, this situation's just not working. I can't deal with this anymore. I need to go back to my old life, pursue my dreams, and I'm thankful for everything that you have done." Whereas she simply just leaves, and leaves two idiotic boys in the house with Richard to get her belongings. In the revival series, she doesn't get her big journalistic breakthrough that she was looking for. She returns back to Stars Hollow to temporarily stay with her mother. She is also in a relationship with a man who, let's just face it, everybody forgets, and takes no consideration for his feelings. Again, it shows her ill treatment of people and her blatant disregard for other people's feelings. Not only does she ignore him, but she again engages in a marital affair with Logan. It's made clear that she was not in a position to marry Logan, and turned down his proposal. But despite this, she had no issue with being his mistress, despite the fact that he is engaged to marry another woman named Odette. There is a significant meeting with Jess, where she realises where she's going wrong and she needs to change her path in life. He suggests that she writes a book about her life, again with the notion that she can do whatever she wants, and everyone would be supportive of her. She goes to her mother Lorelai and pitches the idea. This quickly is rejected by Lorelai, as she doesn't want her personal business aimed to the world. But in true Rory fashion, she seems to get her own way, and her mother gives her blessing to writing the book. Again, she relies on someone else, as in Jess, to guide her back to the right path of life, get her on the right track, and she didn't come up with this idea of her by herself. She clearly cannot think for herself in rational, logical decisions. Overall, I don't think that Rory has a specific time where the downfall began. It is very evident that as soon as she attended Yale, there is a clear character slip. Although we do see some character flaws before this. However, like I said at the beginning, some people may say that Rory's flaws are not just her own, and a lot of people contributed to the way she lives her life. And so, yeah, those are the main issues that I have with Rory Gilmore. I'd love to hear from you in the comments to see if there are other parts of the series that you think contributed to her downfall. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.